Hello, and welcome to Fieldwork Fails. This program is a partnership production between the Florida Museum, Guts and Glory G&V, and the Alachua County Library District, sponsored by the National Endowment for the Arts Big Read. Our next speaker is Natapol. Natapol is originally from Bangkok, Thailand. He is a PhD candidate in the plant pathology department studying mushroom evolution. He focuses on a group called the bird's nest fungi. His favorite hobbies include swimming, fictional writing, and listening to opera.
I'm so excited to present the scientist to you tonight. One magical thing about our Fieldwork Fails storytelling series, and I think the reason it's been so popular is because it allows the scientists to be scientists and be that part of who they are, but also to be human beings first. And storytelling really allows people to be their most authentic and brave self, even when it's scary and might feel vulnerable and like you're putting your whole self out there. That's our point. So we always tell our scientists, you don't need a PowerPoint presentation. You don't need data. You don't need research. You don't need a lot of the things that would normally back you up and maybe make you feel legit. You just have to show up and be yourself. Storytelling has a way of doing that for any group, of making us our most human selves. So even when we can't, this is something we say in all of our shows, even when we can't relate to someone's literal experience, we can relate to the humanity, to the emotion in their story, and to some of the details around their experience. So we hope that regardless of whether you came for science or stories or science and stories, that there's something for you tonight. And I think you'll experience a lot of bravery in what our 5 scientists have to share with you this evening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Taylor, for the introduction. And good evening again. Thank you for sticking around this far. As she mentioned, I'm a mycologist. I study mushroom evolution and taxonomy. For those who do not know, taxonomy is the science of classification. In the old days, we use morphology, or how they look, to categorize fungi. Nowadays, we use molecular data to classify them. The best way to use the entire DNA or genome to map them out on the evolutionary tree of life, a study we call phylogenetics. And as you can imagine, I spent many days and nights in the lab trying to extract DNA out of fungal specimens. Now that we get the background out of the way, allow me to tell you about one of the most memorable days of my life. It was January 1st, 2020, New Year's Day. Other people might be drinking champagne, relaxing on the beach, or partying their hearts out. After all, this is supposed to be a delightful day to celebrate, right? Not for me. I remember myself standing in the lab with my eyes brimming with tears. My experiment has failed again. Honestly, I lost count how many times I failed this extraction procedure. I was trying to extract high quality DNA out of 5 fungal species and send them for whole genome sequencing. The protocol was supposed to take 3 weeks to finish. I started in September and expect to have it done by October at the latest. Boy, I had never been more wrong. Yes, we all know the frustration of failing an exam once or twice, but imagine more than 25 times in a row. I bet you start going insane. That's exactly what happened to me. It had been 4 months and I still couldn't get the purified DNA I needed. I tried my best to follow the established protocol exactly. After many trials, I was starting to lose my mind. I looked around and all I saw were lab glassware and reagents. And all I heard was the lab freezer humming. I felt like they were laughing at me for some reason. I started to look for other lab members for consolation. But of course, it was a holiday, so naturally no one was around. My advisor was on vacation with his family. I wanted to scream out loud, but managed to stop myself on the off chance of someone actually being in the building. So I thought to myself, maybe this is it. Maybe this is a sign that I should give up on this project or even on the PhD itself. As I was contemplating whether or not to quit, a moment of history flashed into my mind. I, s- I saw myself sitting in my advisor office crying. It was 4 years ago when I first experienced a lab fail. It was a basic PCR fail, which is a completely normal thing for all biologists. For those who are unfamiliar, PCR is a technique to kind of focus on a part of DNA and amplify it many, many times. So we can use that part of DNA for downstream molecular analysis. Going into graduate school, I thought that if I follow lab procedure to the T, everything would work out 100% of the time. I was mistaken. I didn't take into account that there are many uncontrolled variables in lab work. Fortunately, my advisor is one of the wisest, kindest, and most understanding people I know. He didn't mock my crying. Instead, he handed me a Kleenex and told me that we all have to fail in order to learn. This is why we call ourselves researchers. We search again and again and again for answers. If we always find the answer for the first time, then we would just call ourselves searchers. It's kind of funny. Um, this recollection made me realize that I am not alone in this search. I know many graduate students who want to give up every day due to lab or fieldwork fail. Some give in to the temptation, but others stay determined and hold on to their passion. We believe that we are contributing to the scientific community, no matter how small. Having a reasonable expectation of yourself is the key to keep holding on. I learned to accept that most lab work will not go according to plan. My advisor often says that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. You can be an independent scientist and still seek advice from others. This is something I shall never forget as a scientist. Finally, I pick up my phone, and dial my advisor number. I call him not to hand in my resignation, but to ask for his guidance. He recommended modifying the protocol slightly. I tried the next week, and it worked. At least DNA of two species have been submitted and passed the quality control by the Joint Genome Institute. Fast forward, I recently passed my qualifying exams and became a PhD candidate, which is one step closer to graduation. I'm still learning new lab techniques and working diligently to get all those fungal genomes. In the end, I believe in the old adage, where there is a will, there is a way. Thank you.